Miss Laurie Ortolano. So thank you all for joining me. We are streaming live on X, YouTube, Facebook. Today is 330 days, all right? I'm not allowed to say the F word, neither is she. She's going to say so many not swear words with her deposition. So thanks for joining us here. We will be recording over there because we're in the studio for the Independence, and we will see you guys on the flip side. Thanks. Oh, this is even in the right fucking place. Organized today. Oh, I got my scarf on.
I know, it's good.
Hey guys, and welcome back to The Independence. I have a guest with me today. I'm so excited every time that I have Laurie Ortolano in the studio with me. Miss Laurie is the Nackey Loeb First Amendment winner for
23.
The 2025 NEAFC. Tell people what that is.
The New England First Amendment Coalition covers the New England states.
Winner, a brilliant activist, advocate for right to know here in New Hampshire. And so we're going to be catching up on all stuff having to do with right to know. But first of all, welcome back, everyone. Always so great to have you guys with us here. And maybe to kick it off, just remind people, what is right to know and why is it important?
It's important because it gives us all access to records and knowledge about what our government is up to. And it assures that we have the right to an accountable, transparent, open, and accessible government. It's constitutionally bound, and it's bound by statute and law in the state of New Hampshire. And we can, activate those laws and that constitutional right and seek information from our government, which, at times doesn't want to really cough it up. So you got to work at it a little bit.
And so constitutionally, of course, we're talking about Article 8, Part 2, I think, of the Constitution.
Part 1, Article 8 of the New Hampshire Constitution Bill of Rights. And that's where it's enshrined.
And it's enshrined, and it's really beautiful, broad language that you and I both really like. And then we have this right to know legislation, which is called RSA 91A. So we kind of talk about it as, I'm going to file a 91A, and people can go to Right to Know New Hampshire to our website, and it'll give you sort of instructions on how to file something. So there's, examples and kind of like you want to put this and this and this in. But over the years, the 91A law has become, is it fair to say, sort of burdensome and hard, and there's a lot of exceptions? And
yes, there's a lot of exemptions, maybe 10 or 12 now. There's a lot of tweaking that's been done to the language. I think we've made it complex for the courts to interpret, and every judge has a different interpretation. I spoke with a judge last year who said, hey, this is a very complex statute to understand, and I can appreciate what he says is true, because there are quite a few right to know cases that end up at the Supreme Court under appeal that are overturned. And there's the big houses that do media work, especially for newspapers, television stations, that are the standards in this state that come out and try to open records for us. And they do a lot of challenges in the court and will take things to the higher court. But a lot of citizens that do work never take decisions that I think are bad decisions and appeal them because they don't know how.
Right.
So what we're seeing for the overturning, I think, should be actually higher, and things should be challenged more. But we simply don't know how to do that. I mean, approaching your Supreme Court to with a challenge to say, I don't think a trial court judge did the right thing is difficult. I mean, there's a procedure and there's a knowledge base and an experience that comes with doing that. And it's hard to do.
So it's a hard to do, it's expensive to do, and for the most part, I mean, you've had some success. How many of your lower court cases have now been overturned at the Supreme Court level?
I think there were one, two, three, like four.
Four. So again, this is why this lady is my hero. So Laurie does not take no for an answer.
No.
You follow the law, right? Which is what happens when you keep appealing something, because there's also this asymmetrical relationship, right? That we don't often talk about. So I love that you brought up the press. So the one thing I want to say is most people don't really think about this issue this way, but it really is a First Amendment issue. And
Yes.
if you think the press should, be able to get this information, I love that, we're on the side of the First Amendment with these cases, right? Like
Definitely.
we're always trying
Definitely.
to dig out a story, because the reason they don't want to tell you something is usually because something's rotten in Denmark,
Exactly. Exactly. And
Um,
yeah, so there's a lot of opportunity for improvement here.
So one of the things that Laurie and I, who both serve actually on Right to Know New Hampshire, which of course, if you are new to this, it is a nonpartisan statewide organization. It's been around for 10 years now. It is several times won the Nackey Loeb Award,
Yes.
both the organization itself and then people like Laurie actually individually. But we meet once a month.
Yep.
Third Saturday of the month. It's now a Zoom call. We used to meet in person. Maybe we'll change that again. But honestly, I kind of like being able to do it from home.
I
And,
think more of us do as well.
because we're all over the state. We
Yes.
genuinely are from north to south. And we are nonpartisan in the sense that it isn't political. It really is about this issue because, of course, open government is nonpartisan, because the point is you just want to hold them accountable. You
Sure.
just want to know what you're doing so that I can make sure you're doing it right. And that shouldn't be a left, right, Republican, Democrat, I don't know, issue. It should be an issue that all of us as independent thinkers
Right, right.
like. So what's your appetite for sort of a super overhaul of the entire Right to Know law?
My appetite is voracious.
Nice word.
It's high. I mean, I have struggled with the application of 91A and the constitutional, rights that I have. I find the court in general very much disconnects the Constitution from the statute. They stay very much in the 91A lane. And I would like to see more coupling. I'd like to appreciate what the constitutional arm does for me. And I have a hard time appreciating that when I go to court because I don't get rulings that I feel back the constitutional rights I have enough.
Because really the constitutional rights, at least my reading as, I don't know, a lawyer on two continents, is that it gives us wider rights, more broader rights than we actually find under the statute. And again, the statute has become complicated. And what we are seeing actually is citizens are prevailing on the issue. And we've seen judgments, including one of yours, where attorney fees were allocated. There was one out of Grafton this year where court costs and attorney fees were allocated to the citizen.
His was a good win.
And so it's really going to start costing these municipalities a fair amount of work and money. And back to that idea of the asymmetrical is, it's cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars. You're doing some cases pro se now, but you did make some lawyers rich in the process.
The initial ones. The first one was a nightmare. And it was so expensive that it was that one that broke me and said, okay, now I'm going on my own. I'm not going to let them keep me busy, burdened, and broke is the name of the game here.
Yep.
And I'm not going to let them, they're not going to keep me broke. They'll keep me busy, they'll keep me burdened, and I'll have a lot to learn, but they're not going to take all my money. And, that I think really made my city mad. It really frustrated them because my big last right to know case, which part of it was overturned up at the Supreme Court in, I think early June. And it's been remanded back here and I'm kind of working through that. But that case, the city has spent approximately $1 million working to beat me.
So this is the city of Nashua, And when I say asymmetrical, what I mean is when Lori has to pay her lawyers, Lori has to find the money somewhere
Right.
and she has to pay her lawyers. But when the city of Nashua does not follow the law, gets wrapped over the knuckles, gets told they lost their case, what do? They appeal. And why can they appeal? They can appeal because they are spending taxpayers' money. And so they're like, there's no cost to them. And so, in many ways, we have perverse incentives.
Very much so.
Whenever
Very
a
much so.
citizen goes after a town, there is this issue. I mean, that's the same thing
And a
as
city is worse because they have much deeper pockets and they have their own legal offices. Towns, I think, are a little more reserved. In general, they're better. They usually outsource their legal work. And so town councilmen and selectmen tend to be a little more concerned about spending their town's money on legal fees. But a city has a dedicated legal office and they contract out as well. They are not shy about bringing in big firms. I mean, they brought in McLean Middleton and Upton Hatfield on my right to know case on the Art Center in downtown Barries. They swung big and they brought in the big team. They paid McLean over $500,000 to represent my case in court.
wow.
So, because they ultimately had a lot to hide, I believe what they did with those records was not proper, was downright fraudulent, and it went to federal agents. The federal agents and agencies took an interest in that case, and we had good conversations and turned information over to them, and that rests where it rests. You don't get any information to talk about or do anything with, but at least we pushed it out somewhere beyond this state. But it's the other thing, and what I find is you can't, it's very difficult to go up against a city because they contract to lawyers for me where they have no interest. The city has no interest in resolving the real issue or stipulating. They really don't. It's a total annihilation, winner take all mentality.
Well, and also in your case, just to be candid, it has become insanely personal.
Oh,
So it is
difficult.
it is fascinating to watch because I can put on my lawyer hat and we can talk about this case by case by case. Or I could just put on my storyteller hat and I can be like, this lady has had the police show up at her house. She has been arrested for filing a FOIA request. So, for asking at City Hall, hey, can you give me this information? Here's a piece of paper. There have been depositions with the foulest of words that I won't give my producer a heart attack by saying any of them.
Claiming that was my conduct repeatedly in public meetings that was completely falsified by the city corporation council. And they're so protected that even perjury doesn't matter. It's very disturbing what you're going up against. And when they hired this one attorney, they basically said to him, listen, you work for us. You are never to talk to this lady. You are never to pick up the phone. You're never to engage in a phone call with her. You're never to have any contact. Email only. But the truth is, if I hire a lawyer, and I've hired him a couple times, and I were to say to my hired attorney, you are not to talk to anyone in the city. You're not to have any verbal communication.
Right.
You just email. They honestly wouldn't take me as a client.
Probably
They would
not.
say, listen, you're tying my hands. The whole goal of this is to try and help you get out of this at a reasonable cost and to stipulate or do something that can bring this to closure and make records more open. I can't effectively work with you if you tie my hands and say don't communicate.
Right,
But the city does.
well, and it's so petty. I mean,
It is
that's
petty. It's
almost,
petty.
it's almost jaw dropping where you're like, oh, this can't be how it is, right?
It is.
Or you're like, why did you not just answer the request
Oh.
way back, right? So it's almost like little children, like when a kid gets caught out in a lie,
Right.
and then they kind of tell a bigger lie, and then the next thing you know, the fish is this big, and they had nothing to do with it, and the mud was a cookie, and whatever the story is,
They
right?
don't. They don't understand the motto: when you're in a hole, stop digging.
Digging.
They just dig and dig and dig, and they think they'll totally destroy it, and they do a good job doing it. I mean,
Well,
they
it's
inflict a lot of reputational
reputational,
harm. It's very,
right?
very damaging.
Well, you're still lucky because I see the union leader at least still publishes your op-eds.
They
I
do.
read
They do.
some of them actually on my lives
They
and on
do.
my shows because I don't know, apparently I've become persona non grata there as well. I don't know. I've sent them a few things this year and nothing got published. So I will have to have a conversation there. But this time on the show goes so fast. Why don't you let folks know? Maybe you had mentioned earlier, you were like, some of the things you've learned. Are there things that sort of stand out to you where you're like, wow, I think citizens really should know this, or I wish more people would do this perhaps? I mean, I think more people should be filing more right to know
I
requests.
agree. I wish more people would get involved in asking their government for information. And then when you get the stall and the runaround, be persistent and go back and follow up. Don't let them push you out. You know, there can be a lot of fear in doing this work because, gosh, they do go after you. But I'm at a point where I think it's time to have some real discourse about this. I hate to say, to be bold and mean about it, but you've got to be very assertive.
Well,
Because
bold and
these rights
yeah.
are going to go, you're losing your rights and you're losing the opportunity to really participate in your government and understand mostly how your money is being spent. Government has become big and very costly. And
Yep.
I am such a proponent, not because I back a political party fully or that I'm, radical this or radical that. I just think there should always be accountability for money. And if you can't get there, then you need to make certain that your government stays small. It has to stay small because otherwise, and the state of New Hampshire has very limited resources to investigate money issues, white collar crimes. The Attorney General's office and the county attorney will tell you we don't have forensic accountants. Oh, well, terrific. That means any municipality or
we know
city.
people are stealing money, but we're
Right.
surely not going to pay to find out how people are
can't.
stealing money.
We can't help with that, which is an open invitation to any city or town to just go ahead and enter into these really harebrained deals that are really stupidly formed, and you're not going to get caught or nobody's going to come after you because we just don't have the resources.
So do you think like the most, sometimes I like to do these very creative life hacks where I'm like, what is the simplest solution here? And to me, this seems so obvious, but I'm like, I just think there should be no such thing as a non-public meeting if you're in public service, right? Because it's kind of like, but if you are not acting on behalf of the public, or if you have to hide what you're doing,
Right.
Why? Like by its very prima facie, like on the face of it, I'm like, that seems sketchy.
It does, and and I definitely think it's overused. It's overused, and the attorney-client privilege, exemption is over applied.
Especially for the
challenging it.
city, right?
Oh.
Because that's what they're doing now is the city. So one of the things I noticed it on the drive here, I actually took a photo of it. There's a big camera now on all the traffic lights in Manchester, which didn't used to be there. Now, the way they got around the fact that they're not supposed to be doing that, because I worked on that bill. There are bills that say they're not allowed to put up surveillance cameras or any kind of license plate scanners in New Hampshire. And what they're doing is they're giving the contracts to private companies, and then the police are buying the information from private companies.
So they're skirting the
And
law.
and that's a little bit of what happened with the art center, right? Like there was
Yes.
this public-private interaction.
Yes.
It's just we're at the stage where the cronyism
Oh,
and this merging of the state is allowing private actors to do things that the state could not do constitutionally.
right. Or it really doesn't have enough money to do, so they have to enter into these partnerships. And then that's a very basis of part of my art center suit is they formed a private company very late in the game, 2 years after they started pursuing federal money, and then they funneled all of the public tax money, bond money that was raised, 21 million, into the private company. And then they said, hey, the construction project is managed privately now. There's no records, no information, no accountability of the spending. It's over. And the Supreme Court did reverse and remand that, and they issued a very good and firm order saying that the court applied a flawed logic, and that the court now has to perform a government function test to determine um, if the private company was performing a government function, thereby these records should be opened. And what's amazing to me now is I've been assigned to Manchester court because the judges in Nashua were conflicted.
Okay.
And right before I had a status conference in September, like a day before,
Yeah.
the attorney representing the private company, which is McLean Middleton, files a memo and says, we're now going to operate under 91A. We're now going to become public. So you don't have to do the government function test. You don't have to apply the mandate at all. Just skip it.
Huh?
I was like, you gotta be kidding me. I fight this for 2.5 years, and now you waltz in now that you've lost and go, oh, okay.
Okay.
All right, we'll be public.
Well, because they're also like, well, everyone got paid, right?
Well,
so then they're like, okay.
And you can't get the records now. To some extent, they never treated themselves as a public entity. So the way they never held a public hearing on the formation of the company.
There were no minutes posted.
There were no minutes.
No meetings posted.
No meetings. I mean, so I had to file a motion for relief to the court and to argue that the court should follow the Supreme Court mandate. That's another thing. According to the courts and according to judges I've talked to and the city of Nashua itself, they are very hardened that when the Supreme Court issues an order, you have to do it. There's no messing around. Right. It's a mandate and you do what the court orders you. Now, it's so interesting. I go up to this court in Manchester and the judge is like, yeah, I don't have to do it. Okay, if they say they're gonna be in 91A, I don't have to do it. Now, down in Nashua, 6 weeks before this hearing in Manchester, the judge, we got another mandate on a remand for the judge to review police transcripts and audio files. And the judge is like, listen, I got to do this just the way it is. I mean, if the Supreme Court tells me to put on an armored suit, I got to wear an armored suit. You do it. You follow the mandate exactly. 6 weeks later, I'm in Manchester, and the other judge is like, why bother?
You see, but that's also a problem with the judiciary. You had a really great op-ed. I did read it on one of my my living experiments a few months ago, where you were talking about this issue with the courts and the judiciary here in New Hampshire.
Yes,
is a real issue. We have an aging judge population. We don't have people who have the right skills or an understanding of the basics of law, which might be that it's logic and words should, have definitional meanings. So we're going to have a problem coming down the pike with all of that. We have a problem, quickly. Actually,
it's here now because, and we should all be sensitive to be a judge. To do that kind of work, it is enormously stressful. It's enormously demanding. It requires a lot of stamina, a lot of quickness, a lot of education, and their workloads are very high. And I think there are a fair number of judges, even in their 60s, that undergo health crises.
I'm sure.
You take on a lot of negative energy in that job as well. And
also just think we built this massive regulatory framework all over America, but we didn't really size up the courts to be anywhere near commiserative with the amount of laws we wrote.
No.
So every single person in the legal system is overworked, and most of it is malfeasance at this stage.
It is. It feels like such a collapsing entity to me in this state. It does, and I hate to say that, but I am deeply troubled by.
But honestly, I think a solution and an opportunity presents itself as well. I would love to see New Hampshire actually start to embrace private courts. When I was in California back in the .com days in Silicon Valley, was round about the time where we saw a lot of arbitration come into HR complaints, right? So there was forced mediation and forced arbitration, and there was this arbitration courts that started up specifically for sort of HR complaints. And they just did this little magic trick where they privatized a whole area of the law that kind of went in this opposite direction. And I think if we could create an environment where we start to create competing courts in the sense that you would have to have it happen contractually. So you and I might have to sign a contract and say that, hey, if we have a dispute, we're going to go to Carla's mediation, right? Well, X's mediation. I can't be the mediator too.
Right.
Although I like the system. Oh, that's exactly like the government. See, when I say it, we could all go, that doesn't seem fair or logical. But when they do it, we just all go, oh, the system must work perfectly, where all their incentives are in line, but we're pretending like they're biased and on our side, and that is not
That's not the case.
what's going on.
No.
So we have about 5 minutes left. One of the things I wanted to talk about is this investigative report bill that is coming up. So we have two bills that are coming up for this legislative session. One has to do with the police cameras
Yes.
and buddy cam and making that more easily available. But then we also have the one where we're saying if they spent taxpayer money
Right.
on writing a report, then that report should be subject to 91A. Would that have helped you in the Nashua Art Center case? Is that kind of what that org is doing now?
Well, it would have in part helped. It would have in part. It's going to really help with state agencies, though.
Okay.
I think, like the AG's office.
Right.
There's police conduct investigations, and generally they'll say when the investigation is done, we'll make the records public. Sometimes I think they should be public sooner in different components, but they will do that. The AG's office is pretty tied down, and maybe I don't know how the county attorney is with any investigation they do. They throw up a wall and say, once it's done, the findings aren't available. They throw every exemption at them, including I had one recently come to me that had a judicial exemption under the Constitution. I couldn't get the record.
Wow.
They applied a judicial exemption like the Supreme Court would, trying to get a record out of the Attorney General's
Wow.
office.
Yeah, no, the AG, there's some bodies buried there
Oh,
too
there are.
that,
And they don't want you to, but some of the things I've asked for are just like investigations that are really money driven, really associated with records in Nashua. They're very focused. I'm not asking them to go back and dig up stuff that they did in the past. It's very focused on a specific issue. And they take it and they say, we're going to investigate. And then you come back 8 months later and you go, could I have the findings? Denied. And I mean, through like 6 exemptions down. And they will never give you the findings.
Wow.
Which, they're supposedly spending our money. It's our
Right.
taxpayer money. And how do we verify that they did any investigation at all?
Yeah.
I mean, that this isn't just, push it off the table. This is not, I don't have time for this. I'm not going to do it. I think that's a lot of that goes on.
No, I hear you. So as we come up against the end of the time here for us, what is a call to action? How do you think people can get involved? Is there ways people can help you with your cases?
In Nashua, for sure, people can get involved by coming out and speaking up more. Our meetings are very lightly attended unless there's a real hot button issue. You'll bring people out.
Yep.
We had a homeless issue that really packed the room.
Yep.
We've had Kraton or whatever that T is, the lead, right? That was
Crantum, I think.
Crantum.
Crantum.
I can't remember. There's that one. There was vaping was a big issue when it came out 2 or 3 years ago. We were going to ban vaping. That was a big one. So, but then the chamber sits silent. And I've had more people say to me, I don't want to get involved because I see kind of what happens to you, and I don't want to happen to me.
But you see, the more the merrier.
I could really use the support with people getting involved.
So
And the city needs the push. We're all, subject to. We all have to pay our taxes. We all have to have our property tax. We all have to pay our taxes, and we all have to be part of this system. And you got to be part of the solution. Because there's plenty of problems. And the only way you're going to be part of that solution is by coming out and getting involved or writing. And social media isn't necessarily the only tool. I mean, you have to address your elected people and let your self be known about your concern. And you have to demand the respect you're entitled to when you address your elected people, even when your viewpoint isn't popular. And I think it's very important to push that and make that happen, because that's a constitutional right and it's a First Amendment right that I feel very strongly about, that I think was very violated for me over a extended 5-year period.
Well, we're up against our time, so thank you so much. Thank you
you.
for all the work you do. It's
so glad
literally a thankless task.
It is.
So thank
is.
you, Laurie.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me on.
We are off to lunch. For everyone watching this today, happy Thanksgiving. And if you're
Yes.
watching this any other time, have a happy day anyway. I will see everyone back here again next week. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
All right. And thank you all here too. We will see you back again tomorrow. Today was 330. I'm in the final stretch. Bye, guys.